All right, the SEC is getting a tough new reputation by upping its caseload and slapping corporate sinners with hundreds of millions of dollars in fines. And just this week, the SEC reached a $50 million settlement with GE, one with Bank of America for $33 million, although a judge is rejecting that deal. Also this week, a former AIG CEO, Hank Greenberg, agreed to pay $15 million to settle claims that he manipulated the company's earnings. And one of the highest profile settlements this year, the $200 million that UBS paid the commission. We talked to the SEC today, and they tell us they've filed 30% more actions so far this year over last, and commissioners want even more. They're asking for a 20% boost to the SEC budget, partly to hire more investigators.
Well, for more on these fines and the busy week for the SEC, let's head to Washington and our own Jesse Westbrook to get more on this story. So, Jesse, what do you think that the SEC is really trying to show by going after all these cases? Is it all about kind of shoring up their reputation?
I think that has a lot to do about it. One thing that is sort of noteworthy about these cases is the speed that the SEC is doing them in. I mean, the Bank of America deal with Merrill just happened last year, and the SEC is already suing and settling the company. In years past, these things took a long time. The SEC got criticized over that. With some of the Enron litigation, they took years to resolve that. So it gives the impression that the SEC is trying to get the headlines when people still remember the news, and they get more of the credit for it.
All right, but going too fast may be bringing up some questions, and I bring that up because there are some unanswered questions about the agency's settlement with the Bank of America.
Well, one unsettled question about Bank of America is who was responsible for Bank of America not disclosing the bonuses. Obviously, there were executives involved in making those decisions, but those individuals are not mentioned in the case. And as you pointed out, a judge is sort of questioning one aspect of the case. You know, you're going after a company that's taken a lot of government money through some of the rescue government bailouts. So who's ultimately paying this fine? Are taxpayers paying this fine? Bank of America says that's not the case. But that is one issue that the SEC is going to have to deal with as it goes after companies, particularly companies that have received government bailouts.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about that. I mean, what are some of those specific challenges that the SEC is facing as it goes after those companies that receive so much money from the government after the crisis, Jesse?
Well, I think one question is, you know, decisions that were made at the height of the crisis, while could be wrong in retrospect, you know, those were pretty crazy times last year where, you know, people like Bernanke and former Treasury Secretary Henry Paulson were making decisions on the fly that may not always have been in the best interest of shareholders, may not have always been in the best interest of corporate governance. But, you know, maybe the issue of misconduct has to be viewed through a different lens through that period than it does now. I mean, I can't answer that question,
right,
but that may be one thing that the SEC has to look at.
Right, got it. All right, Jesse, thank you so much. Bloomberg News' Jesse Westbrook joining us from D.C.